Welcome to my screen background or the slideshow to my video presentation entitled The Standard Operating Procedures on Admission, Custody, and Other Operations in the Correctional Institution, or we called as BUCOR, which means Bureau of Correction. So before I start, I will put first my camera here. There you are. So let's start. To God be the glory. Bureau of Corrections. Standard operating procedures on admission, custody, and other operations in the correctional institution. So we have here some table of contents of the security and safekeeping procedure. We have Roman numeral 1, purpose, 2, scope, 3, definition of terms and acronym, 4, responsible officer, 5, details, which the contents of admission, custody, and other operations in the correctional institution. And the last, we have guidelines, having a content of searching part 2, chapter 2, section 4, 7, 8, BUCOR operation manual. Then next, 6.2, receiving part 2, chapter 2, section 1 to 6, BUCOR operating manual. 6.3, issuance of provisions, part 2, chapter 1, section 9, BUCOR operating manual. Then 6.4, PDL accounting book 2, part 3, section 5 to 6, BUCOR operating manual. Then 6.5, security classification, part 2, chapter 3, section 1 to 3, BUCOR operating manual. Then we have also 6.6, violation, part 3, chapter 9, section 1 to 9, BUCOR operating manual. Then 6.7, we have discipline, part 4, chapter 1, section 1 to 4, BUCOR operating manual. And we have also a transfer of PDL. And the last one is that approval of release by the director. So we go on to the purpose. What is the purpose of this SOP? So purpose of the SOP is that provision of a secured and safe environment for person deprived of liberty is not only a single process, but integral to all core processes such as admission, reformation, and release processes. And we have also scope. This procedure includes searching, receiving, issuance of provisions, accounting, security classification, visitation, discipline, movement, and discharge from prison. We have also here definition of terms and acronym. So first we have GSCU, which means Gate Security and Control Unit. We have here also WSU, means Water System Unit, CB Classification Board, BOD Board of Discipline, IVSU Inmate Visitation Service Unit, IS Investigation Section, EG. Last is that escort group. So we have here other definition. We have PDL, which means person deprived of liberty. Next, BUCOR operating manual, handbook for the guidance and observance of the custodial and other personnel of the Bureau of Corrections. RDC, Reception and Diagnostic Center Office tasked to receive, study, and classify PDL and detainees committed to the Bureau. And we have a last one is that prison refers to the penal establishment under the control of the Bureau of Correction, namely New Bilibid Prison, Correctional Institution for Women, Leyte Regional Prison, Davao, San Ramon, Sablayan, and Luaig Prison and Penal Farm. So now we go on to the responsible officer. The having content here is that gate security and control personnel in charge of security at the gate area, control and record the ingress and ingress of things, personnel, visitors, PDL, vehicles, receiving officer, charge of receiving PDL upon orders of competent authority, supply officer, kitchen personnel, charge of orderly distribution of PDL's provisions. We have also here some water system personnel in charge orderly distribution of potable water supply for PDL. Next is that catering service security personnel charge of securing the delivery, preparation, and distribution of PDL meals and maintenance of peace and order in the workplace. Next, we have here shifting unit personnel in charge of securing prison facility and accounting of PDL. Overseer office personnel maintains prison record jacket containing visitors list and case management record, conducts physical head counting and monitors the whereabouts of PDL. IVSU personnel facilities access of visitors that includes screening, recording, and searching. We have here some investigator which conducts inquiries investigation. Escort personnel also having ensures the security and safety of PDL during movement. Separation center personnel facilities the release of PDL. Next, we have here some details: admission, custody, and other operations in the correctional institution. First, we have activity. This admission, having a person responsible like safe security and control officer and receiving personnel, but in details and functions, having searching and receiving. So it has a lot of references that shows the testimony about this admission. So we go on to the custody, having a supply officer, water system personnel, catering services personnel, shifting unit personnel, overseer office personnel, classification board IVSU personnel, and investigation personnel, board of discipline, escort group personnel. It also have a details or the function of the issuance of provisions PDL, accounting, security, classification, visitation, discipline, and movement. Actually, in the reference of this custody, it has a lot of reference that will show that about the facts about the custody. So we have here next, the last but not the least, is that release, which means the separation center personnel inside the person responsible. Then about the details and function, it also have one that shows us the discharge and one reference for the release. So we go on to the next. Guidelines. Guidelines searching part 2. Chapter 2, Section 7-8, BUCOR Operating Manual. It has 6.1 search of PDL and personal effect, having a content of upon admission, the PDL shall be searched thoroughly. He shall be allowed to retain in his possession only such articles as authorized by the prison administration. The next, a list of all articles taken from the PDL shall be entered into the PDL record and receipted for by the guard in charge thereof. The next, all articles taken from the PDL shall be returned to him upon his discharge unless previously disposed of the PDL's request or order condemned by the superintendent after a lapse of 2 years. So next, confiscation of contraband having the contents of narcotics and all other prohibited drugs or substances, all types of weapons, substances, or chemicals that may cause injury to person, and other items or articles which a PDL is not allowed to possess under prison rules shall be considered as contraband and shall be confiscated accordingly. So next, we have Receiving Part 2, Chapter 2, Section 1 to 6, BUCOR Operating Manual. We have here admission. The contents here is that a PDL shall be received at the Assessment, Rehabilitation Program, Development, and Monitoring Division, ARPDMD, for New Bilibid Prison and in the Reception and Diagnostic Center, RDC, for other operating prison and penal farms upon presentation of the following documents. We have here some mitimus, commitment, order of the court, information and court decision in the case C, certificate of detention, if any, and certificate that the case is not on appeal. Inside contents of this is that a female PDL shall only be received at CIW. So next, we have form of mitimus, commitment order. It having the contents of it shall be under the signature of the judge. It shall bear the seal of the court, and it shall be duly attested by the clerk of court. Then next, we have also here some registration sheet, which means that a prison shall keep a bound registration sheet wherein all commitments shall be recorded. Chronologically, the registered shall contain the following entries: name of PDL, reason for commitment and the authority thereof, sentence, then date and hour of admission, and last, date and hour of discharge or transfer and basis thereof. We have here also some admission process, having after registration, the PDL shall be photographed front and side view, fingerprinted, assigned a permanent prison number, and the male PDL shall then be given a regulation haircut and his beard, mustache, if any, shall be shaven off. The next, hair pieces. A PDL may not wear a wig or artificial hairpiece unless medical authorization to do so is approved by the superintendent. Next, place of admission. Next, a PDL shall be placed in an area that is physically separated from the general prison population. Next, we have here some issuance of provisions. Part 2, Chapter 1, Section 9, BUCOR Operating Manual. We have also here some, first, the newly admitted PDL shall be issued 2 regulation uniform t-shirts whenever practicable. He shall also be issued the following items. He must have 1 blanket, 1 mat, 1 pillow with pillowcase, 1 mosquito net, 1 set mess kit, and 1 pair slippers. 4. We have here some PDL counting, Book 2, Part 3, Section 5 to 6, BUCOR Operating Manual. We have here some head count. A head count of PDL shall be conducted 4 times. So they need to conduct 4 times, no? Times a day or as often as necessary to ensure that all PDL are duly counted for. Next, we have also here some procedure of PDL count, having the content of the procedure for conducting a periodic physical head count of PDL shall be as follows. There must be a positive verification of the PDL's presence, counting a PDL as present on the basis of seeing only my part of his clothing, his hair, or shoes shall not be made. Then C. A written report on the result of each head count shall be submitted to the Chief Overseer, and if the PDL count does not tally with the list of PDL, the matter shall be immediately reported to the Chief Overseer. So, 6.5 Security Classification, Part 2, Chapter 3, Section 1 to 3, BUCOR Operating Manual, having classification board. Every prison shall have a classification board that shall classify PDL in accordance with this chapter. The board shall be composed of the following: having chairman, superintendent, vice chairman, chief reception and diagnosis center, members, medical officer, chief education section, chief agro industry section, secretary, chief overseer. We have here some is classified as to security status and as to entitled to prison privileges. So we have here a lot of classification of PDL as to security risk. A PDL shall be assigned to any of the following groups. We have maximum security, which means this shall include highly dangerous or high security risk PDL. Inside of this, inmates are those having sentence to death, those whose minimum sentence is 20 years imprisonment or reclusion of perpetua. Then remand PDL or detainees whose sentence is 20 years and above, and those whose sentence is under review by the Supreme Court of the Court of Appeals. Those with pending case, recidivists, habitual delinquents, and escape. Those confined at the RPDM or RDC, those under disciplinary punishment or safekeeping, and those who are criminally insane or those with severe personality or emotional disorders that make them dangerous to fellow PDL or the prison staff. Next, we have B. Medium security. This shall include those who cannot be trusted in less secured areas and those whose conduct or being required minimum supervision. Under this category are those whose minimum sentence is less than 20 years imprisonment. Remanded PDL or detainees whose sentence are below 20 years old. Those who are 18 years of age and below, regardless of the case and sentence. Those also who have 2 or more records of escapes, they can be classified as medium security PDL if they have served 8 years since they were committed. Those with 1 record escape if they have served 5 years, and first offenders sentenced to life imprisonment they may be classified as medium security PDL if they have served 5 years in a maximum security prison or less upon recommendation of the superintendent. Those who were detained in a city and or provincial jail shall not be entitled to the said classification. So next, we have also a minimum security. This shall include those who can be reasonably trusted to serve their sentence under less restricted condition. Under this category are those with severe physical handicap as certified by the chief medical officer of the prison. Next, we have also here those or 65 years old and above without pending case and whose convictions are not on appeal. The next, those who have served 1/2 of their minimum sentence of 1/3 of their maximum sentence, excluding good conduct time allowance, which means GCTA. And those who have only 6 months more to serve before the expiration of their maximum sentence. So this we have here some visitation. In contents we have also here visiting rights, which means the PDL shall have the right to be visited by his family and reputable friends at regular intervals. Next, we have visitor lists. That means the superintendent shall compile and maintain a list of persons named by the PDL in the interview who may visit the latter. So next, we have also visiting days and hours, which means that visitors shall not be allowed to stay overnight in prison. There shall be no visit on Friday and Saturday. Actually, the visitation is Sunday to Thursday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So, we have here our limitation of visiting rights, which means that exceptions may be granted after taking into account special circumstances such as the distance of travel of the visitors and the frequency of the visit received by the PDL. Visiting room, which means that whenever practicable, a prisoner shall have a visiting room which shall be as comfortable and as pleasant as possible and equipped to meet the needs of visitors, include children. Next, we have here privacy of visits. Prison guards shall supervise the visiting area in an obtrusive manner. They shall not eavesdrop on conversation or otherwise interfere with the privacy of the PDL and his visitor. Next, we have here some conjugal visits. What does that mean? Does that mean that a male PDL may enjoy conjugal visits from his post in prisons where there are facilities, therefore, under such condition as may be prescribed by the director. We have also here some visit of legal counsel. PDL may be visited by his legal counsel of record at reasonable hours of the day or night, and violation of visiting rules. So we have here some violation of visiting rules, which means any circumvention or violation of visiting rules by the PDL or his visitor shall result in the suspension or deprivation of visiting privileges and initiation of disciplinary action against erring PDL. We have here some discipline. Part 4, Chapter 1, Section 1 to 4, BUCOR Operating Manual. So, we have here some disciplinary controls purpose, which means efforts shall be made to instill in the mind of all PDL the concept that self-discipline is an essential characteristic of a well-adjusted person. Guideline on disciplinary control. Disciplinary control on PDL shall be firm to ensure safety and good order in prison. Breaches of discipline shall be handled objectively, and sanctions shall be executed with firmness and justice. Due process according to PDL. Every breach of discipline shall be reported to proper prison authorities. The erring PDL shall be given due process before he is punished. Ignorance of prison rules shall not be countenanced or considered an excuse for its non-observance. So we have here some prohibited acts. Following acts shall subject the PDL to disciplinary action. We have here some participation in legal sexual acts or placing himself in situation or behavior that will encourage the commission of illegal sexual acts. Next, openly or publicly displaying photographs, picture, drawing, or other pictorial presentation of persons engaged in sexual acts, actual or simulated masturbation, excretory function, or lewd or obscene exhibition of genitals. We have here some possessing articles which pose a threat to prison security, to the safety and well-being of PDL and staff. Also have giving gifts, selling or engaging in barter with prison personnel, maligning or insulting any religious belief of groups. So last, we have here some transfer of PDL. Transfer of PDL to another prison. A PDL may be transferred by the director upon the recommendation of the superintendent concerning to another prison facility to bring said PDL closer to his family or as part of his rehabilitation program. So we have also a transfer of insane PDL. PDL who has been confirmed to be mentally abnormal or insane may be transferred to a mental hospital with the approval of the director. Next, we have here some transfer of PDL to stockade of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. The confinement of the PDL may be transferred to an AFP stockade provided that the PDL is certified as minimum security risk. We have here last transfer of PDL not eligible to be a colonist to a prison and penal farm. Upon recommendation of the classification board, the director may also transfer to a prison and penal farm a PDL who, although not eligible for classification as a colonist. So we have here the last but not the least, approval of release by the director, which having a basis of release of PDL, which means PDL may be released from prison with the following: as upon the expiration of his sentence by order of the court of competent authority, or after being granted parole, pardon, amnesty, who may authorize release the following or authorized to order or approve the release of PDL. It has also the Supreme Court of lower courts in cases of actual or grant of bail. The President of the Philippines in case of executive clemency or amnesty. The Board of Pardons and Parole in parole cases, and the Director upon the expiration of sentence of the PDL. So we have here Approval of release by the Director PDL shall only be released by the Superintendent with approval of the Director. Verification of identity of PDL to be released. Before PDL is released, he shall be properly identified. His fingerprints and other identification marks shall be verified with those which were taken when he was admitted in prison and changed in his distinguishing marks since admission. Next, documentary basis for release. PDL shall not be released on the basis of authority relayed through telegram or telephone. PDL to be released by reason of actual dismissal of the case, the filing of bond or payment of indemnity shall only be released upon receipt by the superintendent of a written order bearing the seal of the court and duly signed by the clerk of court or by the judge thereof. The release order shall bear the full name of PDL, the crime charged, the number of the case, and such other details as will enable the releasing officer to properly identify the PDL to be released. So we have here prompt release of PDL. PDL shall be released without delay. However, before releasing the PDL who is suffering from a communicable disease or mentally derangement and who cannot delay the expenses of his treatment, the superintendent shall take his necessary steps to arrange for the follow-up treatment of the PDLs in an appropriate government institution. Release of foreign national. The director shall notify the Commissioner of Immigration of the release of the PDL who is foreign national at least 30 days before the approximate date of release. The director shall furnish the Commissioner of Immigration with certified copies of the court decision in the case of the Allen PDL as synopsis of this prison record and the expected date of release of PDL with pending case. If the PDL to be released has a pending criminal case, the director shall inform the court where the case is pending of the PDL's discharge from the prison at least 30 days before the actual date of release. In the proper case, the director shall turn over the PDL to the proper court where the PDL has a pending criminal case for disposition. We have here some prohibited release of PDL before and after election. The director shall not order or allow the PDL to leave the prison 60 days before and 30 days after an election except for valid or legal reason. Separation and Placement Center. A PDL shall 30 days before his scheduled date of release be transferred to the Separation and Placement Center to prepare him for a re-entry into free society provided he is not under punishment or an escape risk and is cleared of his government property accountability. Next, we have here some pre-release seminar. All PDL eligible for release shall undergo 1-day seminar in preparation of his life outside prison. We have here some assistance to PDL to be released. Upon release of the PDL, he shall be supplied by the Bureau with transportation to his home, including a great gratuity to cover the probable cost of subsistence en route, and if necessary, a suit of clothes, transmittal of carpeta and prison records in executive, clemency, and parole cases. The director shall forward the carpeta and prison record of the PDL to the board within the following period. For commutation of sentence having at least 1 month before the expiration of 1/3 of the minimum period of the PDL's indeterminate sentence, and in special cases at least 1 month before the period specified by the board. So we go on to the next. Last but not the least, for conditional pardon at least 1 month before the expiration of 1/2 of the minimum periods of the PDL's indeterminate sentence, and in special cases at least 1 month before the periods as the board may specify. And for parole means that at least 1 month before the expiry date of his minimum sentence. So this is the end of my video presentation. So